In 1960, the physicist Eugene Wigner, a refugee from Budapest and a future Nobel laureate, published an essay whose title has haunted science ever since: The Unreasonable Effectiveness of Mathematics in the Natural Sciences. Notice the word he chose: not surprising, not delightful, unreasonable. A sober physicist confessing that something at the foundation of his own craft does not add up. Here is the mystery he was pointing at. The familiarity should not be allowed to numb it. Mathematics looks like a game of the human mind. A 19th century professor develops the theory of curved non-Euclidean spaces purely for its elegance, proud that it has no practical use. 60 years later, it turns out to be precisely the mathematics of Einstein's gravity. Matrix algebra, worked out in the 1850s as abstraction, turns out in 1925 to be the native grammar of quantum mechanics. Paul Dirac, following the beauty of an equation, notices that it demands a particle nobody has ever seen, antimatter, and 4 years later, the positron shows up in a cloud chamber. The universe did not have to be like this. It could have been chaos or a brute list of facts, comprehensible in patches or not at all. Instead, it is lawful to 11 decimal places, in a language human minds composed in advance for pleasure. Einstein said the eternal mystery of the world is its comprehensibility. Wigner ended his essay by calling the fit between mind and cosmos a wonderful gift which we neither understand nor deserve. The gift implies a giver. That is the step Wigner would not take in print. Today I want to take it along a specifically Jewish road, because the Jewish sources have been describing a linguistic mathematical universe for a very long time. Look at how the Torah says the world was made, not by battle, as in the Babylonian creation epics, not by craftsmen shaping mute clay, by speech. And God said, "Let there be light," 10 times in Genesis chapter 1. And the Mishnah, Pirkei Avot 5:1, counts them. The world was created with 10 utterances. For centuries, a skeptic could shrug at that, but set it beside what science actually found at the bottom of things, and the shrug gets harder to maintain, because the deepest discovery of the modern era, deeper arguably than any particular particle, is that reality runs on information, on code. Follow the evidence down the scales. Chemistry first, the entire riotous diversity of the material world. Gold, chlorophyll, granite, perfume reduces to arrangements. Counts of protons, configurations of electrons, a periodic table that is essentially combinatorics. Now listen to the Sefer Yetzirah, the ancient book of formation, a text that describes creation through the permutation of 22 letters and actually runs the mathematics. 2 stones build 2 houses, 3 build 6, 4 builds 24, and onward into numbers the mouth cannot speak. That is factorial growth, permutation, deployed in a Hebrew text of late antiquity to explain how a small alphabet yields an unbounded world. Ask a modern chemist how 100 elements yield 10 million compounds, or a geneticist how 4 letters yield a biosphere, and you will get the same answer in modern dress. Which brings us to the most remarkable single fact in biology. In 1953, the structure of DNA was solved, and the center of life turned out to be a text. I mean that with almost no metaphor. 4 chemical letters, read 3 at a time in a fixed direction by molecular machinery that the founders of the field could only describe with the vocabulary of scribes: transcription, translation, proofreading. Error-correcting enzymes patrol the manuscript. Your genome runs to some 3 billion letters, and every cell carries the full edition. The scientist did not choose bookish words as ornaments. Nothing else fits. Life is not merely built, life is written. And a tradition whose God creates by saying, whose mystics taught that the letters of a thing's name sustain it in being, and whose scribes have copied a text letter perfect for millennia under rules a molecular biologist would recognize. That tradition is entitled to hear the news from the genome and say, this is our picture. We've been drawing it for 3,000 years. Physics has pushed the same idea further. John Archibald Wheeler, one of the giants of 20th century physics, spent his last decades arguing a thesis he compressed into 3 words: it from bit. Every particle, every field, perhaps space-time itself, deriving its existence from information. And a key piece of support came from an observant Jew, Jacob Bekenstein, who kept the commandments all his life, showed, together with Stephen Hawking, that the entropy of a black hole measures information and that it lives on the surface, as though the contents of a region were written on its boundary like text on a page. From that insight grew the holographic principle, the serious proposal that our 3-dimensional world may be, in a precise mathematical sense, an inscription. This is frontier science, and frontiers move. But notice the direction of travel. Physics opened the modern era, describing a universe of little hard spheres. It enters this century describing a universe of law, number, and code, and asking at its speculative edge what Hawking famously asked: what breathes fire into the equations? The Jewish answer has been on file for a long time, and it is specific. Bereshit Rabbah 1:1. God looked into the Torah and created the world, as an architect consults a blueprint. Proverbs 8 has wisdom saying, I was beside him as a craftsman before the earth was. Strip the imagery and the claim is exact. The word precedes the world. Information is more fundamental than matter. For most of scientific history, that claim looked backwards. Obviously, matter is fundamental and information is a latecomer riding on it. It from bit says otherwise. The text, so to speak, precedes the stone. Ask the great theorists how they find true equations before experiment confirms them, and they answer with an aesthetic criterion. Dirac said it outright. Beauty in one's equations matters more than a fit with the current experiment, because a beautiful theory that seems to fail is usually awaiting better data. Einstein's general relativity was embraced for its elegance years before decisive tests. Now ask the obvious question, why should the deepest laws be beautiful? Ugliness would compute just as well, unless the laws proceed from a source in which truth and beauty are not separate departments. The psalmist did not say the heavens prove the glory of God. He said they declare it, the way a melody declares its composer, as signature rather than syllogism. A physicist who selects for beauty is trusting professionally that the signature runs all the way down. The universe is comprehensible when it need not have been. It speaks mathematics, a language minds compose before consulting nature. Its matter is combinatorial, as the Book of Formation sketched. Its life runs on a proofread 4-letter text. Its deepest physics flirts with information as the bedrock of being. None of this is a proof of the God of Sinai, and I won't pretend otherwise, but set the two pictures side by side, a universe that is at bottom language, and a tradition whose God said, let there be, whose creation is 10 utterances, and whose central act of worship is reading, and ask yourself honestly whether they look like strangers. In the next episode, Einstein's relativity, the God of was, is, and will be, and the Sabbath as architecture built in the 4th dimension.